Welcome to episode 108 of the Road is Dead podcast. I'm your host, Rob Curtis. I am here in the studio with
Leah Sanda.
And joining us remotely,
Tim Strelecki.
All right. Now, we were just commenting. Tim, you were saying you want to change the background that you're using. For those of you that have never watched the video, Tim's got a wood panel background at his house that he uses.
It's all around me.
And for some reason, we were suggesting coming up with, I don't know, like winners jerseys, leaders jerseys. You have one or two, I'm assuming.
I've got quite a few.
I mean, you probably have as many as we have sitting behind us here in the quote-unquote studio.
I got enough to make a quilt.
I got more than that.
There you go. Well, now you're making me feel inadequate. We have more than that. We just have them over in a case somewhere. You know, we've got some good ones up here.
Yeah, but they're just
Leah,
they're just jerseys.
Leah mentioned the idea of wearing. Apologies, I have to go pick up my son, or not.
And we're done.
No, he's getting picked up by his my mother-in-law. But anyway,
Nice.
It's kind of nice. I mean, she's like 81-ish, and she still drives from Aurora to Elgin to pick him up from school multiple days a week.
Wow.
So, considering my dad is the same age, and he is in assisted living now, and we have taken away his driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So, I credit that honestly to the fact that her husband, his second husband, but her husband is like 10, 15 years younger than her. So, and I think that really kind of, it goes along with what we talk about here, but I really think that young mindset, she's never really stopped and contemplated actually how old she is. You know, she just, you know, she's with a younger husband and he's still doing stuff, wants to go do, so she goes and does things, you know,
that's awesome.
And stays active. Mm-hmm. So I think that plays a huge role in things, you know. So remember that as you get older, you're only as old as you think, you know, that expression.
Well,
I think there's some truth to that.
I that's always the thing that scares me is like every time I get injured, I'm always afraid that I'm not going to be able to get back, because the older you get, the harder it is to get back to moving and doing everything again. And I'm like, that's the thing that my mission in life is to never freaking stop. Don't stop moving. Don't stop lifting weights. I might stop riding bikes, but just don't stop moving.
No, as you get older, you're you know, obviously after a certain age, your bone density deteriorates, and that's the number one killer, you know.
Especially in old ladies.
Yeah, broken hips, you know, all that stuff.
I have the bone density of the average 30 to 35-year-old woman, so I'm doing all right.
Oh, that's good. I can't afford a DEXA scan.
A lot of weightlifting.
Yeah. I was just talking to my wife about that today, Darcy, about that today, and we were saying something about bone density as we get older, and I was saying, you know, I haven't lifted weights in years, but I had a career for 15 years where I beat the hell out of myself every day lifting heavy furniture for 10 hours a day. So I'd like to think that I still have some residual from that.
Oh, for sure.
Even though I haven't, you know, had a gym session in years.
From what I understand, it's just stressing that connective tissue on the ends of those muscles that really creates a higher density in the bone near those connection points and will contribute to overall bone density.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I am obviously not a doctor, or even I can hardly work on bikes. Okay. Let alone, you know anything about physiology, but that's the way that I understand it.
Well, cyclists in general have an issue with bone density because it's not working against gravity. It's not impact.
Yeah.
Which is why I do what I do in the gym. But even with that, you know, the guy I work with he is not a proponent of plyometrics. They're fabulous, but the risk to reward ratio is just not there unless you're like paid to be like a pure jumping type athlete. It's really not worth it. You can get explosive strength in ways that are safer. But I sort of feel like if I want to put myself into cyclocross again, I don't know if I can run. Running. I don't know if I can run without injuring myself. So my plan is to start jumping rope, because
That'll work.
you're getting the impact at a very low level, but it's enough to strengthen those connective tissues and make some resilience in there, I think, without the wear and tear of running.
That's a cool idea. I think that would be
Yeah.
really beneficial.
Yeah.
If
So
you,
From my
plan.
uneducated point of view. I had one quick question to jump in there.
Yeah.
Plyometrics. What do you mean by that? I know I've heard the term. I'm not
explosive
an
jumps
exercise
up and
guy.
down repeatedly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, explosive jumps up
It's
and
like
down.
box
And
jumps.
you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
minimize some of the risk of it by jumping up onto a box, so you're getting the explosive part going up,
Without
but
the
you're
impact.
not coming down hard.
Yeah,
So,
like explode up and then step down gingerly.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as you don't miss the box.
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah, that's
or just completely shred your shins on the edge of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all probably seen the horror films of people and
Oh,
scrape
yeah.
shins and shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, jumping up onto a box is, I think, probably pretty safe for the most part. I mean, compared to the landing part of it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you know,
That's something you do in your your late teens, early 20s, when everything's fresh.
Yeah. Most of my lower,
when you can still bounce.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's, my trainer always says you can only go as fast as you have the brakes to stop yourself. So anything that we do, a lot of what we do in the gym is working on the muscles that you need to slow things down. And that's, like doing, strengthen the tibs and stuff that prevents that, like shin splints and stuff like that. And a lot of those common injuries.
Yeah.
So maybe if I started running, I wouldn't get shin splints.
If you run, just find a nice even surface grass patch and just run on that. Like if you have a big soccer field near you, something soft,
exactly,
that absorbs the blow. Or if you have a high school running track, that's that squishy foam now that they use.
Exactly.
That'll
the
lessen the impact.
You correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't just walk onto a high school running track, right?
Some you can. Mine you can, as long as they're not using it. The one at my school, and it's a huge high school, but if it's not in use, people can go out there.
Well, I mean, this obviously is, as you can do that even if it is open. You can do that as long as you're not on any sort of list that prevents you from being close to a school.
Well, you might have an issue.
Yeah, you might have a problem.
I'm guessing.
No,
I've heard. So anyway, impact. No, I don't know how we got onto that pretty quick, but no, that's a good idea. I actually was thinking about, I did a 5K earlier this year with my wife. She does one every spring, and I decided to do that with her this year. And I ran a bit before going into it, just so I wasn't going to be in shock. And then we did it at her pace, which is, fine. I knew that's what we were going to do going into it, but you guys know her. But for those that don't, she's not very tall and has very short legs. So her stride is a very short stride. And so it wasn't the pace so much as the fact that I had to take a really short stride in order to stay with her at that pace. And I found that to be way more excruciating and painful than any other running I had done up to that point. And I found that unique. I didn't think that was going to be an issue. Or I was like, oh, I'm just, taking a shorter stride. Man, that hurt way more than I thought it would.
Yeah, you have to practice those cadence changes.
Yeah. And after that, I have been thinking, I literally was thinking earlier today about doing another 5K before cross season.
Absolutely do it.
I mean, I know 5Ks aren't that big of a deal, but really it's just to have some sort of impact base like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get off the bike and cross, if you're not, in my opinion, if you haven't done any running at all and haven't done any sort of impact at all or weightlifting or anything.
Oh, I've had a season like that. It's miserable. The first time you get off, you're like, what? Your body's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like
now
you choose to do this?
Heart rate pegs, your body just hurts and doesn't want to function right. And I don't know. You all know.
Yeah.
I mean, you've practiced the fundamentals, right? I love that it's May and we're talking about cyclocross.
Yeah.
Speaking of cyclocross and off-roady kind of stuffy that I used to hate, Let's get into components that I love. I think we've talked about it a little bit on here, I think, but to reiterate, it's pretty obvious that SRAM is coming out with a new red group. I say it's pretty obvious because there's been plenty of spy shots out there in the wild. There's a lot of industry people that we've talked to that say that something new is coming without any details. They're all part of an embargo, I have zero information to quantify any of that. I am not a part of any embargo or anything else like that. So I'm not giving any sort of inside information, but I did see a couple people. I saw one in particular, a mechanic, wrote up a very long review of the quote new red group. And I didn't bother reading it because I was thinking if it's really out now, I'll wait and read the reviews that like some of the bigger tech guys do. But so either he thinks that the last group is still new, or he has a version of the new group that he's been reviewing, and may have put that out early by mistake. But I think it's obvious that a new red group is coming. I'm excited for that. I want to see what they're going to change. The one thing, I think I've said this about SRAM before, one thing that I'm not as thrilled about when it comes to their new product additions is that they, more than anybody else in the industry, have done a much better job at obsoleting older product. So they do focus on the newer stuff that they're building. And I think that has a lot of benefits to it. They innovate and they move on. And I do like that. I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Like Apple. Apple does that kind of stuff. You can argue whether or not the innovations are worth it, whatever. That I don't care about as much as the fact that I think they do really good product management and they're not held down by legacy product. At the same time, you run into situations like what I ran into today. I'm working on a bike. Somebody that we know is on our team, is ridden forever, does not ride as much anymore, has a top-end race bike. It's got carbon wheels, everything else on there. It still has red 10-speed on it.
Ooh.
And they ride it enough that the big chainring's worn out. And the opportunities for me to find a replacement big chainring on that, slim to none. I mean, 11-speed chainring would work. I'm digging through. Luckily, I've got some semi-used ones that I've got hanging around that I can replace it with. But it's one of these to where if you're a good 10 years old on your SRAM, you may not have any access to any replacement parts. We know that from first generation ETAP.
That sucks because I got first generation ETAP and I'd love to use it again, but I can't find anything.
Yeah,
I can't find.
It is interesting. I don't think anybody would argue that ETAP access, is great. They did a really good job designing that, in my opinion. I don't know how different it is than first generation ETAP. You have ridden for both, and you guys both have ridden both. You could give me a good opinion as to whether or not the changes were that significant or worth it. But I'm not a huge fan of the idea that they did obsolete first gen ETAP, especially because it was only a year and a half, 2 years in when they did that.
It's kind of crummy. Like I would love to use it again if I can, but I can't find a derailleur, which is my main problem. My shifting, my hoods and the levers, they're perfect, but my rear derailleur took a crap on me, and I can't. It like does a half shift and then it doesn't do anything, and so I can't do anything. I'd love to use it, but I just can't. So
I want to say somewhere somebody told me there was a patch in maybe the software that allowed you to interact with some of the access, but it's not official or something. I don't know. Don't rely on me for any of that information.
Yeah.
But we could probably find you a derailleur. Yeah. It's just a matter of how much it's going to cost.
Oh, I found them. They're like $350.
Yeah. I think new though, they were like 500 or something, weren't they?
Yeah, well, when I got my 11-speed ETAP, I bought the whole kit. So I bought, the whole thing, and it was like $1,600.
Which was a good price.
It served me well. Like I beat the hell out of it. I rode thousands and thousands and thousands of miles on it. So it's no surprise that the derailleur just by fault died because it had, 6 years on it, at least.
Yeah.
So you have 11-speed ETAP and you need to find a rear derailleur?
That's it. Yeah.
She still has hers.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that would
And you
make
officially took it
on
off
my
and
Van
ditched
Dussel.
it.
No, it's all on my Van Dussel that I don't ride anymore.
Oh, but that's your backup bike. Backup road bike.
It is, but I haven't ridden it in like a year. And I'm
Yeah.
theoretically getting another road bike coming
as
soon.
long as I can, pair my shifters with that derailleur, I'm golden, because then I could put, wider tires on my road bike and I go back to the way it used to be.
Now, here, don't say that we don't ever do anything on this podcast. Here, we just made a connection.
Yeah.
A love connection when it comes to components.
That's what we do here. Yeah. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're keeping the old stuff running. That should be my slogan.
I mean,
although then I would get too much old stuff to work on.
All the old stuff is still good. It's still relevant. It still functions. If you just keep up with it and take care of it, it's flawless.
The top end stuff, the top end and mid tier from all the major brands, I would argue, even going back to 30 years, the top end and mid tier stuff is still viable, still running. And really good stuff.
My original ETAP's not, it's not hydro. It's for rim brake. I love the slim down feel of the hoods. Much in stark comparison to the Axis that I have, which feel like I'm, got 5 pairs of gloves on. I'm holding the hoods like this. So
I will say, somebody asked me not too long ago. They said that they're on a rim brake setup, a 10-speed setup, and they were saying, well, what do I do if I want to switch? Like, what group should I buy to put on this bike? And I kind of was like, well, at this point, I believe you may be down to like 105. And that's going to be just about it.
Yeah.
For anything rim brake. I know there's some hacks. You can get some previous generation Dura-Ace Di2 and run it with the rim brake, and it will still actuate the Di2 12-speed.
Interesting.
I believe that's still viable. I knew they were going to phase that out at some point, but my point is, we really are. We've been kind of here for a while, but we truly are forcing even the, I'll call them the knuckle draggers or the curmudgeons of us who don't want to change. We really are at that point where when you break something, you are going through eBay, or you're buying used parts, or you just are getting a whole new bike, at least a whole new frame and a new build, from the ground up.
That's where
it is an interesting time.
Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I found that ETAP derailleur. There was like 5 of them on eBay.
Yeah,
and, I mean, like you said, that's your avenue now if you're trying to find rim brake parts.
Now, I will say, if you do have a pile of rim brake parts and they aren't completely used up, they do have some life left in them. If you're not really partial to them, I would say take them to eBay and offload them for some money right now, because there's still some people that will spend the money to keep their rim brake stuff working for right now. Also, if you don't mind rim brake, to be honest with you, you can probably go and buy used rim brake bikes complete with the components
like
that
$1,500
for almost what you would just spend on the components themselves.
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
get a frame thrown in and a wheel set. So it might be worth your time if that's your shtick, if that's what you like. Every time I go, man, I really do like disc brakes. I think they've revolutionized a lot of what we do, but they're definitely not needed. I know that.
No.
And every time though that I'm starting to go, I don't think I would want to go back. I go and I ride like an old Dura-Ace setup that's rim brake, or my son rode my old race bike this whole weekend at camp, and that's a old. It's like 12 years old. It's from 2012. Giant TCR with that I put SRAM 22 red on, or Force on, I think, and rim brake. He rode that with my wheels with Chris King hubs and everything else. That bike is way still lighter than my current bike, and it it reacts better, it's faster, it's all those things. So, I mean, the pointy end I think is better. I think some of the technology in general definitely is better. I think our brakes are better. I'll say it. And I think that the shifting is better in electronic. But in general, man, those rim brake bikes are still real nice.
Oh, yeah.
And will still work perfectly for almost everybody out there doing it.
I mean, especially out where we live. We live in the flat part of the country. We're not bombing down, long descents, you're not bombing down Lemon every day. You're not, you're not in California bombing down hills. You're not in Europe bombing down hills. So the rim brake application out here is just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would not want to go back to an era where you're descending long descents on carbon clinchers. I never thought that was a good idea. And I didn't like it at the time. As a carbon wheel seller, I hated it. Especially somebody was like, yeah, I'm going to take these over to Europe and do X, Y, and Z. It was like, man, I wish you the best. Do me a favor. Don't drag your brakes the whole way down the mountain. You know?
Right.
Use them in short spurts as you need them.
Sit up and take some wind. Slow yourself down.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad that era is gone.
Yeah.
But to your point, anything in the Midwest, you're fine. Even going in the driftless area where you do have some very steep descents, they're very short.
Yeah.
They don't last for 20 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that. How long is the descent on Lemon?
It's like a half hour, didn't you say, Leah?
Yeah, 35 to 40 minutes.
And that's with you descending.
Yeah.
And you beat most other people while they're descending.
True. And I don't touch my brakes the entire way down. Literally.
So you do it correctly.
Atta girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you don't need to.
Brakes.
The slowest curve on that mountain is 25 mile an hour to cars, and it's pretty wide open. I mean, you can go down the mountain faster than a car can.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Someday I'll find that out. I'll go out there on my own and actually see it firsthand.
You get the KOM on the descent?
Me? No. No, I don't think so. At least not the first time, that's for sure.
No.
I don't like, I don't know, descending gnarly stuff or slightly technical stuff when I've never seen it before. No. I mean, I'm still a little conservative.
Just start binge watching some Tom Pidcock videos. You'll be fine.
Once I know what it looks like, I take some risks I probably shouldn't, but that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah.
But we were talking about tech. So I mentioned the SRAM thing. I'm sure it's going to be out momentarily, daily, weekly, whatever.
The hood's got a little GRX flair to him.
I haven't seen it. I honestly haven't looked
at
it.
I saw a picture of the hoods and the shifters. I was like, oh,
nice.
Yeah, they look pretty clean.
We've discussed this, but I like the GRX hood. I love the GRX lever and hood shape, but the longer I've ridden it, the more I've realized it is just too long. It's for me.
I've been back on it. I put I haven't ridden my designated gravel bike in a while, which has first gen Access Force on it. I've been riding my the all road you built up for me, Rob, with the GRX, and I've actually been enjoying it. I've actually really been enjoying it. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, so the slim hood feel is that always brings me back. I love that.
Yeah, I like that feel, the width of it. I like the shape of it. It's just that from the curve of the bar out to the bump on the hood, that distance is just, to me, longer than it should be or longer than it needs to be, to the point where I do have to run, I feel, a shorter stem.
Really? It makes that much of a difference to you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's at least an extra centimeter than what you would normally
I think it
have.
Is. Naturally, I think it is.
Lever.
It is a longer hood than whatever else is out there.
Yeah.
Or versus your Di2 Ultegra.
So and that I think bears a difference in at least my setup, and I've noticed it over time. But so hopefully, I'm hoping they're going to slightly revise that when they come out with the next GRX, which is a great segue into the next big thing. So obviously, you shared, Bike Radar had a article about the new patent for Shimano 13-speed wireless. Now,
theoretically.
they have a patent.
Yeah.
There's no
Okay.
theory about it. They have
Right.
a patent. But that doesn't necessarily mean they have a product. I will say that in history, the way these things go is that these guys will notice the patent filing, and then within a year, we have the product in front of us. Usually with some variations on what was filed in the patent. I will say that a couple things. One, that patent was filed a while ago, and it just popped up again. Must be a reason why they just popped up again. Number two, I know I've mentioned this maybe, but was I the only person that realized when they introduced GRX 12-speed, which was at Unbound last year? Maybe the year before? Was it last year?
No, last year.
I want to say it was last year.
It's too new.
So they introduced GRX mechanical 12-speed at Unbound last year. And they've sold it since then. Where's the Di2 12-speed GRX?
It's probably currently being ridden by Pete Snedda and other sponsored, high-level Shimano athletes.
It's out there for sure. Shimano is not going to be like, well, we don't really need a GRX in our 12-speed GRX.
I guarantee you, Pete Stetton's got it on his bike.
Oh, I guarantee it. I guarantee all the top riders have it right now.
The only thing I would say is, Shimano, please don't make 13-speed. Nobody needs 13 speeds.
So they said
that about 11, and they said that about
11.
12.
I love 11. I love the way 11 feels.
I have to agree with you in that there's honestly after 10, even 11, I was kind of like, but I can see it with 11. Yeah. After 11, it's like, what's the point?
The thing that I noticed even with going from 11, like 11 speed, you all know, like the jumps are nice. You don't get too big of a jump depending on the cassette you're using. What I find with the 12 is, depending on your rear cassette, you almost have to go larger in the front as you go larger in the back, so those jumps don't feel as extreme. Like if you're running a 1x44 in the front and you have a 1044 in the back, as soon as you get out of that 1011, it's going to feel ridiculous unless you're on terrain where it makes sense. So, if you want to run like a 48 or a 50 or a 52, you need that mullet setup in the back to make everything feel somewhat normal, and you'll probably have a better chain efficiency.
Yeah, you'll be in the middle of that cassette way more often.
Yeah.
I still 2x is 2x. Shimano isn't going to ditch 2x. It's their bread and butter.
No.
So
I wouldn't think so.
So here's my theory. We're going to see a Di2 GRX. New Di2 GRX group come out.
The public will, eventually.
Yes. Yeah. It's imminent, in my opinion. If not, then they're really running into some sort of obstacle. The only reason why I think they would have delayed it is that there's something fundamentally different. Because if all they were doing was the 12-speed version of what they put out in Dura-Ace and Ultegra, then it was no work, really, to make a small modification to the GRX lever and make it 12-speed version, So why wait a year on that and do a year of mechanical sales on 12, unless there was something fundamentally different. Now, that would, in my opinion, be a departure from Shimano, not introducing the latest, greatest tech and new iteration on its flagship Dura-Ace first, and then, whittling it down. But let's look at where the whole market is now in this industry.
All the gravel scene.
It's all gravel. It's not about road.
Releasing Di2 12-speed completely wireless at Unbound is going to do way more than releasing a new Dura-Ace at the Tour de France.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, and the thing is, too, if they release a new wireless 12 at Unbound, it stands to reason they're going to follow it right up with a Dura-Ace version at the Tour this year.
I wish they would backpedal and release 11-speed GRX completely wireless. I can't stand the fact that I love the functionality.
It's not impossible.
And the precision in the shifting and the way everything about Di2 runs. I just hate that it's wireless or has wires.
Well, they do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they do step down GRX. So they've got 12-speed mechanical. They got 12-speed mechanical in the 800 series. So I'll just refer to it like this: the 800 series.
I have that.
That's what you and I both have. 11-speed Di2 in the 800 series. They also have 11-speed mechanical in the 800 series. They have 10-speed mechanical in the 600 series, or maybe it's even 11 in the 600. I can't remember. And then they have a 400 series that is either 10 or 9. And if you pay attention, they introduced the Q's setup to replace all the lower end componentry and make a lot of cross compatibility. And they've done that available in an 8, 9, 10, and maybe 11. Definitely 9, 10, and 11 versions that I know of. So they're all cross compatible with all those. And you can't tell me they're not going to. I mean, they're obviously doing this on the gravel side for a reason.
Yeah.
And they've been keeping the lower speed counts on those for a reason. You can't tell me that they're not, working that in some way, shape, or form. So I would say that whatever this new series is going to be in the GRX environment, they're going to keep reverse that trickle down compatibility at the lower level series. And, why wouldn't they have continue to have a Di2 version of 11 and just revise it? And then maybe instead of having an 800, make it a 600 or a, 400 series over time, which we may see as iterations.
I just want it to be wireless. So much easier.
So my prediction, we're going to see wireless. We're going to see wireless GRX, or we're going to see a new Di2 GRX, period. That one's, I think, is a shoe-in. And if I had to pick a time, I would say at a big-ass gravel race, so probably like Unbound or something, like they did with the mechanical when they released mechanical. Which I don't know, when is Unbound this year?
June, I think.
Okay, so like a month from now.
Yeah, it's like a month from now.
All right. So I would predict that we see a new Di2 GRX in about a month, which would make sense. And it would make sense with the filings too, digging up that, because Bike Radar usually is in the know. And if they're digging up something that patent filing is like a couple months old. Somebody found it a couple months ago. To have that pop up again now by Bike Radar, that just tells me that they're trying to lay the groundwork for views.
The hype machine is in full effect.
Yeah. So now I would love, and I think that because of the amount of time that they spent before announcing it and developing it and launching it, whatever, that there's a major change to this Di2 group. And I think that major change is probably wireless. That's my bet. So I would say within a month, we're going to see a GRX Di2 group that is wireless. Now, as for whether or not it's 12-speed or 13-speed, I think that's meaningless. I think that's kind of, I don't know. I don't care. I hope it's not 13-speed, to be honest with you. I would like to see them stay in that 12-speed generation within what they've built. But, it's not my turn to
correct
pick.
Me if I'm wrong, but Shimano's like newer to the 12-speed game than SRAM is, right? Am I wrong?
I would have to look that up because Shimano went 12-speed on the mountain bike side a long time ago.
A long time. Okay. Well,
it's like they dragged their feet on 9, and then they went to 10, and 10 was like a blip. Yeah. And I think they had some 11 out there. I don't really remember it, but then they went to 12 on mountain bike like as soon as possible. I would assume that SRAM beat them to 12, but I doubt it. I think that they were at 12 on Shimano was at 12 on mountain bike before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then road, I mean, they only came out with 12 on road, 2 years ago? That's when you got your group?
Yeah. I think so.
Was it 2 years ago? We built your group last year, but it was announced 2 years ago, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
So, I don't know. I think those are my predictions. Anybody agree, disagree? Think we're going to see something else?
Let us know. I don't know. I mean,
send us an email.
I have no clue. I just, like I said, I was just was like, let me see what's going on my Google feed, and that popped up, and I was like, what? No, share.
Yeah, yeah. It's
share.
Yeah, I think it's coming.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
So if it comes out, if what I said comes out, or what do you think? What do you think? A version of what I said comes out? Do you think it's going to have changes? If so, what changes do you think it's going to have? And or what would you like to see them incorporate?
I think they're going to go wireless, and some sort of a built-in rechargeable battery system. Wireless. I mean, wireless is just so much more convenient to set up.
It's leaps and bounds.
It's bananas. I mean, I feel like they have to go that way. Whether or not they are able to do a removable battery type thing, I don't know if there's some sort of a patent issue with SRAM and Campy that have the removable batteries or not, or maybe they just decide they don't, they've come up with some way maybe to do a battery that is longer lasting.
If you could like, I mean, not that I know what I'm talking about here, but why couldn't you just take the current battery charge that's in your handlebar, make that wireless, and you just plug in there, and it like, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. You guys are the engineers.
Can't charge wireless. Wireless power transmission is the holy grail that we still haven't figured out. Kind of like wireless video transmission, I believe.
I don't know. Every time I have to work on my Access stuff, it's like, okay, I can figure this out. When I look at my Di2 stuff, I break out in a cold sweat and I'm like panic texting.
Really?
Panic texting you. Like, what do I do here?
I don't see.
Well, that's because
I don't want to say I see it the opposite way, but
that's
with
because
me,
you're a Shimano guy, so everything Shimano is easy to you.
I wouldn't say that. I appreciate you saying that, but I wouldn't say it's easy to me. It's I do have to look it up, and I am to the point now where no matter what I'm working on, I look it up just to double check and to make sure, because every series, every new group has little idiosyncrasies within every little piece of it, and it's things like even the Q stuff. I had to figure out a chain length, and I'm like, I'm not going to guess on chain length. I'm going to go read their book and then go do exactly what they say to do on chain length anymore. I used to have my reasons for doing chain lengths the way that I did them. All of that has gone out the door because some groups will not function at all unless you have exactly the right chain length and sag set on your rear derailleur, chain tension, whatever you want to call it. So, but to me, Di2 is being a completely wired system. I absolutely love in terms of we have a higher capacity battery. You have one of them. It doesn't take, you have to charge it a couple times a year, if that. And you have that wired reliability that you just don't have in wireless. But you guys ride wireless groups and you say that there's no problems.
I haven't ever had a problem.
Never had a problem, and just have to charge the batteries a lot more. And there's pros and cons, I guess, because with the SRAM, I can just take the battery off and walk into the house and slap it on the charger.
Yeah,
and with my Shimano, I got to take the whole bike in.
Exactly. Like I got to, figure out. I got to take all these wires out. No, actually, no, I don't. I don't have to. You do, because I bring it to you.
Yeah, no, I get it. It to me, I like it because it's easy to diagnose as well too.
Yeah.
All I got to do is just pull a wire and plug in with the diagnosis box, plug it into a computer, an actual computer.
Yeah.
That will run through and test a bunch of stuff instead of being reliant on a Bluetooth connection with an app to figure out what the hell's going on, because that stuff does not work when you're troubleshooting, in my opinion. But it obviously isn't a problem because it's been working very well as wireless. I will say, though, one nice feature, you know how we watched Sepp Kuss last year swap batteries
Mm-hmm.
mid descent or whatever, which was that's a demonstration of how cool that technology is to be able to do that. One thing that I think is a cool demonstration of how cool the wired Di2 is that if you are low on a battery, you can take a little, those little cell phone batteries that you can recharge your cell phone off of while you're out doing something, an extra battery or battery backup. You can take that and plug in your Di2 while you're riding and still continue
Kerry
to
Warner
ride it.
just had a video doing that.
Yeah, and that's what reminded me of it.
He had a battery pack in his back pocket and his Di2
Yep.
charger running from his handlebar to his battery pack.
That is a cool feature, the way that they do it.
But you know what
cannot
else
do
is
that
cool?
with SRAM.
Take a spare SRAM
spare
battery with
battery.
you,
Yeah.
which I do every single ride, and it's much it's much easier.
But if we look at that article that Bike Radar wrote, to Leah's point,
which I didn't,
if they work in an internal battery on the derailleurs and you recharge them, which you don't necessarily have to have a recharging port to do it. You can have that, like with the iPhones.
Yeah.
I don't see that as big of an issue, but what happens when your battery dies? You have a battery failure. You're replacing the derailleur, or is this going to be swappable? I think to the point of what they were saying is, and what Leah brought up, is that it's the patent issue with having a removable battery. So who knows what this looks like?
We'll find out.
Exactly. I'm excited for a gravel group.
I wish they would get rid of crash mode.
I don't know. Maybe they do.
Crash mode on 12 speed now is not a electronic thing. It's a mechanical thing. Mm-hmm. You just push
it decouples and you
physically push it, and there's a little thingy doohickey on the derailleur, and it pops out.
That's nice because
crash mode.
Thankfully I haven't experienced that.
Yeah.
It's like a clutch that disengages, right?
If it absolutely frightens me.
Sort of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so to answer that, then they did get semi rid of crash mode.
Good.
Yeah, I had somebody at camp, Michael Matson, that was on 12-speed electronic, and his rear derailleur just stopped shifting. He's like, looked at me, and he's like, help. And I looked at it, and I'm like, it's not in crash mode. And then noticed his wire was like it wasn't really fully plugged in.
Oh.
It's like, oh, dude, you just came unplugged. Because when he packed his bike, he didn't unplug it. He left it, but he took the derailleur off and just left it hanging by the electrical wire on it. And
so bad.
Yeah. So
Even
it
I
was
know
not
that.
Really, somehow it kind of wiggled itself off. It was like, oh, you're all good.
Wow.
So
Leah to the rescue.
Anyone want to guess on a price point?
Groupo point?
Yeah. Let's just, obviously you can't price a group like you used to be able to price a group. There's not like one set of options. There's a billion variations, but rough price.
1 buy or 2 buy?
It's going to be, they're going to have both options. Let's say 2 buy.
It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 2,600.
26?
That's about where I was thinking.
I was thinking like 24. So we're very close to each other. So.
It's just industry standard.
Yep. How sad. Ugh. God, I remember complaining about having to buy a 105 group at $300 or $350 when it was new. So I found a used one for $100 or $150, I think.
Now you're like
old.
Now you're like 105 for $1,000. Deal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like 1,700 new, 2,000 new.
Yeah. Oh, that's cheap.
I don't even know how much it costs.
Oh. Yeah, I don't either.
But who knows? If you could pick, and I don't want to run these long, but I do want to mention we did have another winner on the chamois cream this last podcast. We're going to do this again. We're going to keep doing it until I decide not to.
Did we have a winner last time?
Yes, we did. I said that's what I just said.
Okay, sorry.
I'll have to pull up the name. Give me 1 second here. But in order to enter the competition to win a free jar of chamois cream,
yes,
you only need to email roadisdead@gmail.com. It is worth it. Trust me. I know the person who won this time probably didn't think that they were going to win it, and they did. So send your email in. This one goes to Robbie Canyer. Thanked us for covering Rough Road 100 in Barrier Bay. And
thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for sending the email. And you've got a jar of chamois cream heading your way.
Awesome.
I will have to reply to you and get your address. That is the other thing. If you do send an email, please do include your address. It'll make this a one-stop shop for me, just in case you win it. And if you don't win it, I don't know. Maybe I'll send you a love letter at some point. Who knows? But
to enter somebody.
To enter, all you have to do is send an email to roadisdead@gmail.com. Outside of that, that is for a jar of buttonhole chamois cream. Obviously, my favorite chamois cream on the market. I highly recommend that if you have not tried chamois cream, give it a shot. We sell it in small ride size 10s and 14 grams that you can give it a shot with. If that is not available at your local retailer, just ask them to give us a call at Cymet here. We are the dealers, owners of Buttonhole Chamois Cream. So ask your favorite shop for your favorite chamois cream, Buttonhole Chamois Cream, which is also sponsoring the opening night of the Ed Rudolph Velodrome once again this year. And that was supposed to be tonight, and apparently it is canceled by rain.
Wah, wah.
So it will be pushed back to next week. So hopefully we'll see all of you out there next week. Also, they are redoing the loaner bikes out at the track. If anybody's ever been out there and seen the loaner bikes or had to borrow a loaner bike while you're trying to learn this wonderful sport of track racing, you have no doubt seen that they are Schwinn's from the 1970s or 1980s. That were, I believe, donated by Garner Cyclery. So back in the day when the Schwinn thing was a thing, they have decided to replace those, and they have been working. They being the Northbrook Cycle Club that runs all of the program out there at the Velodrome for cycling. And they have voted to replace them. They have all sorts of deals they've worked out, but as a part of that, Cymet wheels are going to be the wheels on all those new loaner bikes. So all I can hope for is that these two will be in operation for the next 40 years like the last ones were.
Of course they will.
If you try to learn track racing at the Ed Rudolph Velodrome and anytime in the next 40 years, you might be riding my wheels. So have fun.
So fingers crossed for next week.
Absolutely. Oh, and what has your job changed to out at the track?
Well, this week I was going. So, anybody in the local area that is familiar with Carl Wilkins, he is retired from being the starter at Northbrook. I don't know if he's going to be working at Kenosha track. I think that's closer to home for him. But
I think it's within blocks of his place.
Right. So they needed a new starter at the track. So I've been getting kind of pushed in that direction. So I don't know if I'm going to do it every week, but it's going to be something
What do you do?
fun.
Just stand there and go.
Call up each race, give them the race instructions, start the races, blow the whistle to start the races, do the lap counter, ring the bell for all the points laps and the final lap. And, if God forbid there's an incident, stop the races, stuff like that. So, there's a lot going on to kind of pay attention to that. At first I'm just like, oh my God, I've never done this before. I'm super nervous because you're like there and like visible and
absolutely everything relies upon you.
I'm just like, I got to make these decisions. So I'm just like, you know what? It's Thursday night racing at the track. This is not like the UCI, national championships or whatever. I mean, we're just, I'm sure if I make the occasional mistake on the lap counter,
you might be upsetting some people by saying it's just Northbrook.
No, I'm just saying it's, everybody up there is super awesome and super cool. And I'm sure they will cut me a little bit of slack in the beginning, but
of course.
I'm sure they will. That being said, it's not like we don't have a pile of masters racers that won't get upset about the smallest little issue or problem.
Oh, you can
Yeah.
guarantee that.
I mean, I've been working as a judge up there and scoring races for the last couple of years, and I really enjoy that job. It's numbers, and I love numbers.
All right, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
A, do you get a starter pistol like Carl?
So what I understand, which I have not confirmed yet, is that I would have to get my own starter pistol, and that I might actually need a Foyd for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Foyd, so that's
Yeah,
not an issue. So I could go buy myself a starter pistol.
Nice. And my second one is, give me and everybody listening your best roll them out.
Roll them out.
All right, so that's
what
what
the
you're
hell
doing.
does that mean?
It's a Carl. Roll out.
What does it mean? What am I rolling
okay,
out?
so you
Am
give
I
your,
rolling out the
it's
red
like,
carpet?
this is what he does.
It's gonna be 10 lap scratch race and have some neutral lap. Yeah, roll them out. And then he shuffles off to the, for new people at the track. It's like,
it's
wait,
impossible.
What?
Yeah, you have no idea what's going on, and you have no idea what race you're doing or anything else like that. But you walks up and he gives you instructions. And I've done this impression before. I know people do love it when they hear it, but it's the whole, all right, low hole Chicago, deuces wild, 5s on 3s, 1 lap left, roll them out. And you're like, what the hell did he just say? What are we doing?
Is there a translation for that?
There is in the flyer.
If you read the flyer, it gives the instructions for how each race, what the rules of each race and how it works. So you better know in advance, because if you wait till you're standing at the line for your race to start to figure that out,
I'm in the wrong one.
It's too late. It's too late.
I don't know if you guys have ever played poker, like not like poker, like what became popular, all the poker games we've been watching forever, but like old school home poker where you play like 40 different style games and every game's got a different rule set and everything like that. But I always equate track racing to kind of playing that home Chicago or that home poker style of game, because it's like, in general, if you don't understand the rules when they're announced at the start of the game, you probably have no role.
No chance,
playing.
Yeah.
It's probably a wise idea to save your money and not take part.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel every time when I'm out there at the track. It's like I'm lining up and it's like, all right, so this is Devil Takes the Hindmost, but Belgian winning out mixed together with until you have 3 laps left, and then it's 20 points for the second rider. I whatever.
Do you guys ever have a backwards night at the velodrome? Like you make right hand turns instead of left?
No.
Not
since I've been involved.
I bet there'd be a lot of people that don't know how to turn right.
That's interesting.
I do not know if that's ever happened. I'm sure it's happened, but I cannot think of.
Who's ever in charge of it, throw it in there.
Whoever's listening, if you've got a story for us, send it along to roadisdead@gmail.com.
I don't want a story. I want it to be put into play.
Well, they do have the longest lap. They do that every year.
How can you have the longest lap when it's a set distance?
It's the longest time for a lap. So everyone gets out and tries to do the slowest lap that they can.
Oh, that would drive me fucking bananas.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
People usually give up and just say,
if you can track stand for a really long time, we're going to be there all night.
Yeah. I just pick my bike up, put it on my shoulder, and walk.
Yeah, you can't. You have to be clipped in and not holding on to anything. So you can track stand. But
so it quickly turns into a track stand competition. They have track stand competitions.
Well, that's when you have that and you start to throw like water balloons at people.
Yeah.
Water's a dirty word out the track.
Yes,
remember?
Yes,
I'd
imagine.
I'd imagine.
Yes, that's why it's canceled tonight.
Yep.
I'd imagine.
Which is beautiful because really, if you think about it, I don't know if the top guys do this at any kind of velodrome, but because it's all indoors and you don't race in the rain, take all the seals out of your bearings, or at least all the inner seals out of your bearings. Right. You don't need that extra drag on there. Mm-hmm. Just run unprotected bearings.
Is there
a little bit of oil in them? You're done.
Is there a Derny at that track?
Has been.
There has been, but
yes.
Tony used to have the Derny, and he has not been doing it. The last year, possibly last 2 years, I don't remember. They moved to using an e-bike.
E-bike.
Yeah. So it's either been Roderick or Val doing the e-bike for the Kierans.
Nice.
Which is interesting. And even when they were doing the Journey before, it wasn't a Journey, it was a moped, right?
A Pook. It's a Pook moped.
Yeah, something like that. But
the
at least,
pedal
you know,
moped?
at least
Oh no, a scooter.
it had the
Oh, I got
roller
it.
on the
Yeah.
back, which is cool if you've ever been behind one of those things and
Yeah.
been able to kind of like push up against that roller. It's I mean, you can literally get up against it. But the e-bikes don't have that.
Nah, I don't go there, Clark.
We can build one.
I did a cool down lap, a couple cool down laps there after the Northbrook crit last year. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's flat as far as velodromes go. It's not much of a slope to it. Yeah.
But
they did have a
for local
full
racing,
Journey. They did have a full Journey though for the old South Chicago Velo campus. They had 2, I believe.
Yeah.
That they brought over piece by piece from Italy and assembled.
So I got a question.
Who knows what happened to those?
I got a track question. So
yeah,
like you got your dedicated trackies, right? And they come to Northbrook and they're there religiously for the entire season and they're doing their races. They're getting their saddle time. How does the Northbrook Velodrome compare to other velodromes in the country that are worthy enough of holding national championships? Like I've seen the LA Velodrome, the Carson City one, and I know it doesn't compare because that's obviously indoors and wooden and like UCI legal. But do they have?
I think you just hit all the major points.
Do they have like? Would Northbrook ever host a nationals?
It has.
It has.
It has, but you would have to go back. Do not quote me on this. And there are plenty of Northbrook historians that listen to this, and you will correct me. But I believe it's had nationals as far back as in the 70s and maybe the early 80s.
Nice.
But not. Somebody will correct me.
Yeah.
But I know there's been large national style events that were held at Northbrook through the 70s and 80s, and that stopped in the 90s sometime, I believe.
I think my point was like, we have our style of cross course here. It's kind of mundane and uneventful, and then you go to race like a semi-national like level event, and it's different. I just wondered if it was in comparison to local stuff.
That I'm not a hardcore trackie, so I don't know if this is a fair
right. You're not
statement,
traveling around and doing stuff.
From what I understand, there's a lot of inconsistencies because all the tracks all around the country, they're all a little bit different. It seems like
that makes sense.
And it would be nice if there was like a standard.
I would agree.
Construction for tracks all around. These are all the indoor tracks are all going to be this length, and they're all going to have this banked.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Which we have with the Olympic
so,
style. They're all 250s, right?
Right.
And they all, as the banking can vary though.
What is something like, I don't know if you guys know this, but what's something like T-Town? What does that track look like? Like Mike would know if he were on here. But
I don't know the specifics on it.
That's like the one, right?
The only other track I've actually ever ridden on was the Lexus Velodrome, which is an indoor wooden, super short.
You've never ridden on Kenosha?
Oh, Kenosha. Sorry. Yeah. Well, Kenosha is a lot like Northbrook.
It has way more banking.
There's a little bit more banking, but it's not all that. It doesn't feel a whole lot different.
It's shorter and it's got more banking.
I wondered because in the few years that I was crit racing, and every time I'd go to South Chicago, I always saw that decrepit one in the field and wonder how it compared to a national level.
It doesn't.
I know.
It's a toy.
I know. I've seen it. I'm like, damn, that thing's small.
I mean, Dale Hughes would argue with me on this one. I mean, that's all his style of puppy because he wants to do Madisons everywhere, but it's a 165 or 166 short track.
It's like riding in a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
That's
the same as the Lexus.
That's something you have like a Red Bull event on.
Yeah.
It's fun. Once you get used to the fact that you have to be going at least like 17 miles per hour in order to stay on the track.
See, that's something that's like entertaining.
It's entertaining. Yeah. It's action packed, and if you follow Dale Hughes's model, you got to have announcing like you're at a monster truck rally.
Oh, I like that.
And then that's what makes it interesting. But it doesn't. I think it's entertaining, especially entertaining for people that are not a part of this environment or sport.
I bet it's
a
miserable for the
good
rider.
way to get in. But if you're serious about track,
You hate it.
I don't see. Yeah, I mean it has like zero Olympic appeal. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, as of right now, still the World Championships and National Championships and Olympics are still going to be your top tier events. For this discipline.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to race track for any, like, not 1 ounce of me.
It's really
does,
fun.
But when I see it and I watch it, I'm completely like drawn in. Like, it's cool.
It's super fun to watch. I mean, if you ever had a chance just to come up and watch on Thursday nights,
you should.
When the weather's nice, it's just beautiful just to sit there in the bleachers and watch
and see cycling people. You see all sorts of people, know,
and really just to see the tactics on display.
No, because if I do that, then I'm going to want to get on the track, and I don't want to do that.
You do.
No, I don't.
You do.
Nope.
Then try a Monday night clinic.
Nope.
By the way, every velodrome throughout the country usually has a class, beginner class. It's not really truly beginner. It's just more of a get out there and you can ride and you learn the rules of being on a velodrome and certain different things that happen, and they teach you some basic fundamentals.
I mean, I might be good at it, but I don't. When I want to stop pedaling, I want to stop pedaling. I don't want to be.
You should try it.
I don't want to be forced to keep pedaling.
You know what, Tim?
Nope.
Doing things that stretch your comfort zone is.
I already do enough of those.
I'll tell you what. If you go out to the velodrome, I'll take an FTP test.
Bullshit.
Ooh.
Bullshit.
I'm calling your bluff here.
No way. Because I would easily do that, and then I'd be like, "You're up," and you'd be like, "No, I'm not going to do it."
Yeah, I'll do it.
No, you
I
won't.
will do an FTP test.
I will help you make sure. I'll put a gun to his head. We'll make sure that.
I will do an FTP test if you go out to the.
I'm not talking about no sissy ramp test. You got to do the full 20-minute death test.
I said an FTP test.
No. You have to
20
do
minute.
the 20. You have to do the full
20-minute
death march in its proceedings. Not just
I'll do it if you go out there.
Not just hop on the bike and warm up and then try to do your best 20. You got to.
No, that's what I was going to do.
You got to do the openers, the primer, the full 1 minute blowout, and then the 20-minute death march.
I've never been able to do that.
Then I'm not.
I will
going
do
to
the
track.
20 minute. I will do the 20 minute.
Nope, that's not part of the deal.
You
got to do it.
All right. If you're listening to this and you have an opinion on this, by all means, email it to us at roadisdead@gmail.com.
Exactly.
All one word, roadisdead at gmail.com.
One of us will be peer pressured into something.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
And hit up the socials if you want to comment on it. It doesn't matter. But give us some feedback. But we should draw this episode to a close. Thanks for joining us again. Always buy your buttonhole chamois cream wherever fine chamois creams are sold. And also where some unfine chamois creams are sold, I'm sure. Or no other chamois creams are sold, because let's face it, it's that good. If you're going to pick one, you pick that one. If you need any wheels, go ahead and hit us up at Simet, P-S-I-M-E-T. Just like pterodactyl, the P is silent. And any closing shots, comments?
I wanted to know
how ride your bike.
I want to know how the hot dog crit went, but we can get to that another day.
It didn't. It's not. See, it's not really a hot dog crit though. The old hot dog crit was really the South Chicago.
Okay, well, answer me this one real quick. How is the hot dog crit without all the death holes?
I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to overspeak because I was there for most of the day. I wasn't there for the entire day, but I was there for most of the day. I do not believe there was only one wreck that I knew of. It involved 3 people. It was in the Masters race.
Of course.
And all 3 of them were able to stand up, and it was fine.
Good. That's good.
They were just kind of miffed that, for no reason that happened. That was kind of the general consensus.
Leah, you got some crits coming up this weekend. We can talk about that next week.
Yeah. Muskego and Lincoln Park.
And I've got a hell of a lot of mulch to put in my yard, a la Mother's Day. Yeah. All righty. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the ride.
Take care.